ERC, quality service since 1972. Repairing TVs, console stereos, electronic musical instruments, pinball machines, arcade games, and more. Call 836-0454.
This is your Weather Extreme video for Saturday, September the 12th. I'm meteorologist Brian Peters, and thanks for tuning in. And what a complicated forecast we have going on right now, and one that can be described for the next several days in a word: wet. All right, let's get to the sky cams. Here's the Demopolis. I love that river shot down there with some cloudy skies and looking a little misty, shall we say. No rain really falling in Birmingham as we look out over the city. Surface map this morning is somewhat complex with high pressure generally to our northeast. We got a bit of a low and an old surface boundary along the Gulf Coast, producing a lot of rain along the Gulf. And, of course, there's a low right on the Texas coast. Now, that's helping them because that's helping to end the drought over there, or at least put a dent in it anyway. I don't think it'll end it. In the upper atmosphere, with the water vapor imagery, we can see the upper low over Texas and a big low up over South Dakota. So, as I say, it's a rather complex pattern. Now, temperature-wise, it's very mild across the southeastern U.S., as morning lows here, approximating morning lows, are generally in the 60s and 70s. And a little closer to home, you can see that, first of all, I think one of the things that shows up quite clearly is the easterly flow, which is helping to bring in a good deal of moisture, as well as the temperatures being generally around the 70-degree mark. Now, I said there's a lot of rain, and this is the composite for the southeastern U.S., and you can see the Gulf is just ringed with lots of moisture. Now, while we have a bit of a tropical system, we're not expecting this to develop into any kind of tropical storm or hurricane. Flash flood watches in effect for a lot of Louisiana, Texas, parts of Arkansas, and Oklahoma. And the reason for that is the QPF you can see. And we could stop right here, and I think this tells you the story. It's just plain going to be wet over the next several days. No severe weather expected. That is, no area outlooked for a slight risk of severe weather, but they're going to be watching that area along the Gulf Coast, the central and western Gulf Coast, for the possibility of any kind of development. Real quick, let's look at the tropics. We've got Fred. Believe it or not, Fred is still there, and James said the other day Fred might be around at Christmas. I'm not so sure that he might be right. That was kind of a way out forecast, but he could be right the way Fred's hanging around. We've got a new area coming off the African coast, and then we've got the area along the Gulf area, covering a lot of the Gulf. Here's Fred's forecast, and you can see that Fred is finally going to be moving a little bit further west. I don't think we thought that was going to happen. And real quick, you can look at the satellite picture for the whole Atlantic, tropical Atlantic, and you can see those three cloud masses. All right, here's the 06Z GFS model run. And the bottom line is we could just stop right here and say it's going to be wet. We've got that bit of a tropical system on the Texas coast. By tomorrow, our upper low is in the vicinity of, I don't know, looks like about Abilene, something like that. And with that, of course, we're going to have a good deal of rain, primarily over Mississippi and to the west into Texas, but it's going to be affecting us since we have high moisture content. The closed low over Texas kind of opens up a little bit on Monday, but that just plain keeps us wet as it kind of meanders slowly, moves very slowly, and reaches or moves a little bit east anyway, and that will impact us even more. You can see that the trough is still there, kind of anchored between about southern Illinois down to about Lake Charles or so. And again, that just plain keeps us wet with a broad area of low pressure over the southeastern U.S. And on Wednesday, you can see that the trough hasn't moved hardly at all, oriented just about in the same position. And again, means wet and a broad area of low pressure over the southeastern U.S. The low does seem to finally pull up a little bit, but the position doesn't change much. So, yes, that keeps us fairly wet. But we do begin to see maybe a little more of a zonal flow, but it still has a southwesterly component, which is going to keep us wet. It's going to be a question here. We could see by Friday maybe a little reduction in the raininess as the southwesterly flow comes about. By Saturday, the flow is definitely zonal, and that should help to dry us out, but I don't think you're going to be able to take showers out of the forecast at all. All right, let's go out into Voodoo for a little while, and what do we see? Looks like a complete repeat here. We've got another trough over Texas, extending back towards Chicago, and that means, yep, wet. I think I could just got a theme here for this particular forecast period. And finally, way out into Voodoo, near the end of the month, the 27th of September, and it does look like we might dry out with a northwesterly flow and a rather broad trough along the mid-Atlantic states. Well, I appreciate you tuning in to the Weather Extreme video. Expect to have the next one back by 8 o'clock or so on Sunday morning. Hope that you have a great Saturday, and Godspeed.